Hi everyone, this is OG Star Wars, and today we are going to discuss, compare and contrast Luke's new lightsaber in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Now, in the lore, we know, or the original lore, we know that he did not wield a new lightsaber until he built his green one. And Shadows of the Empire covers that in such a beautiful and unique way and shares how he continues his training. However, we now have this new portion that Disney Lucasfilm is putting out, and yes, it's now their property. They can change things up. I know that. However, they also decided to get rid of the original lore so they can have creative freedom. I get that. But then they are picking and choosing where they want to, what they want to use within the original lore. And then they take it and just make a huge mess of it. And we understand that between Empire Strikes Back, when he loses his hand in his father's lightsaber, the blue iconic lightsaber, not the Skywalker saber, not Rey's saber, but Anakin's lightsaber, are his father, which is referred to every time they talked about it in the original lore. My father's saber, my grandfather's saber. So there's that point. So we know that he didn't wield any other lightsaber, and we know that the yellow lightsaber is now introduced in the lore. Well, in the movies, it was already in both lores, the original and now Disney lore, through the Clone Wars. And so we're going to break that down a little bit. Now, in the Jedi Order, which some of this is inside the Clone Wars as well, is that we have different factions of the Jedi Order, which we had the Jedi Guardians, which consisted of, the starfighters, the peacekeepers, the lightsaber instructors, and also exotic weapon specialists, just to name a few. And then we have the Jedi Consular, which, was the healers, the lore keepers, the seers, and, the diplomats. And so the Guardians basically carried blue lightsabers, the Consulars green, and then we're going to get to the Sentinel. Sentinels predominantly are mostly carried yellow lightsabers, which now we see in the movies, and it was in the Clone Wars as well. So it is canon, and it is in the original lore, or legends as it is now called. So that includes like tech experts, slicers, Jedi Shadows, security experts are, the temple guards. So we have them, and a few like Ashaj, she was one that carried, or was said to have carried at one point, a yellow lightsaber. We have the guards that carry them, and I believe it was Taz that carried one. So we do have it in the lore, both factions of the lore now. And now we have Rey Palpatine who carries it. It's not a Skywalker, she's a Palpatine. So we have Rey Palpatine at the end of Rise of Palpatine, who has a yellow lightsaber as her own. She constructed her own lightsaber. So we know that yellow, if they keep with the lore, and they say that the color of it adapts to who you are, basically, when you bond with it. So then would that make her a Sentinel? We don't know now. So now we have this new story in the comics in Star Wars number 6 that Luke wields a yellow lightsaber. All right, so we're going to take a look at the Marvel.com article about Luke Skywalker's wields a new lightsaber in Star Wars number 6. And so I'm going to read this to you. It's going to be on the site here. You can follow along, and we're going to break this down a little bit. And then we're going to go into the IGN article as well, which kind of breaks down what I've said about the yellow lightsaber and the Sentinels and all that, and just other past history. And then we're going to get into the old original lore Marvel comic as well, because that was also misunderstood, that between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi that Luke carried a blue lightsaber. So we're going to break that down as well. We're going to try to cover every areas, and then also share clips from Shadows of the Empire on how he constructed his green lightsaber. And again, compare and contrast, because this is what I'm about, comparing and contrast between both lores. And so let's go ahead and get to this. So Luke Skywalker wields a new lightsaber in Star Wars number 6. Here's your first look at a cover at Charles Soule and Jesus Hayes' new mag. So basically the new comic. And they are the same ones that has done the Lando Calrissian's arc as well that I covered. So go ahead and check out the video, and I will put it up here so you can click and check it out. And that is kind of disheartening as well. So set after the events of Return to Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, writer Charles Soule and artist Jesse Sayes are currently telling the previous unseen adventures of Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and the Rebel Alliance in Star Wars. So that's obviously we know that there was a story covered between this, and it shared their adventures, and that's Shadow of the Empire. Okay. So they're talking as if it was never expanded on. It has been expanded on, and that's why I'm here, and that's why my channel exists, is because I am sharing what came before the buyout, all the beautiful stuff that came before the buyout that made Star Wars relevant and kept it alive. And that's the expanded universe, now coined Legends. All right, with this exciting new era underway, some of the franchise's long-standing mysteries are getting the spotlight, including what happened to the lightsaber Luke lost in his climactic duel with Darth Vader in Cloud City. And now that too as well, we know when we watch the movie that his hand and his lightsaber falls all the way down to the ground of Bespin. It was never caught, nothing had happened. And so they are changing up the story in Empire Strikes Back, and that doesn't sit well as with me and many others. I did not cover that story, and I still might, so stay tuned. All right, while the results of Luke's search remains to be seen, it would appear he eventually obtained a replacement. Okay. See the young Jedi ignite a never seen before yellow lightsaber on R.B. Silva's Star Wars number 6 cover below, and it's going to be shared here. And learn more when this issue hits stands this May. So the comic is not coming out, it has not came out yet. It's coming out in May. And when you see this yellow lightsaber and they say never seen before yellow lightsaber, it makes you wonder, did they watch Rise of Palpatine or Rise of Skywalker? If you don't understand why I'm saying Rise of Palpatine. Rey builds one, and at the end of the movie, she ignites it. Then in the Clone Wars, the Sentinels are the guards. That is in there as well. So it's in canon, so it's seen before, and in the lore, the Jedi Sentinels are the ones that wield the yellow lightsabers. So it has been seen before in Legends or the original lore, and in your own friggin' canon. Does anybody read or go over their own continuity in Disney Lucasfilms? I mean, they have Leland Sheen there. They have Pablo Hidalgo, which he didn't really care about continuity, you know, and then they have their woman story group. So it seems like a clusterfuck. All right. So this is this article here from Marvel, and it just expands on it just a little tiny bit. So now we're going to take a look at the IGN article. Let's take a look at the IGN article, and it is titled Luke Skywalker's yellow-bladed lightsaber revealed in the new Star Wars comics. Yet another unexpected turn of events for Marvel Star Wars comic line. And this is done by Joshua Yal. Sorry if I butcher that. Oh, well. My name gets butchered all the time. I understand. All right. So Marvel Comics new Star Wars comic picks up after the events of Empire Strikes Back. and shows what happened to Luke Skywalker's blue lightsaber. Of course, again, we, just went through that in the other article. After it was lost during the fateful duel with Darth Vader. And while we know that Luke eventually builds a new green lightsaber to replace it sometime in the lead up to Return of the Jedi, apparently he also obtains a replacement during interim in the form of a never before seen lightsaber with a yellow blade. And this lightsaber has been seen, and if you look at the hilt of the lightsaber, it's a Sentinel lightsaber. So then it makes you wonder how he obtained this, and why is he, why are they having him yield a lightsaber before he builds his new one? And I get that he's a Jedi, or he's Jedi in training, and that's a Jedi's weapon. But when you look at the lore that came before, he used a blaster, and he went on Tatooine to further his training. He finds a journal that was left by Obi-Wan that helped him expand his training and helped him build his new lightsaber. And during that time frame too, they were planning and searching for Han Solo to rescue him, and they also have had confrontation with Prince Caesar and Vader, which I'm not going to expand on here. It's a great story. It's a multimedia project that was adored by by George himself. So we're going to continue read this, and we're going to listen to a clip of Luke Skywalker, constructing, or making his, or putting together his lightsaber, or getting the crystal taken care of. So after we'll get into that clip. The new saber can be seen on the cover of May's Star Wars #6 by writer Charles Soule and Jesse Saez, which we did cover that. Yellow-bladed lightsabers are a rarity in Star Wars lore, but the reveal of Rey's new yellow saber at the end of The Rise of Skywalker has sparked an interest in their history. So now IGN gets it. Marvel did not get it. They're like, it's never been seen before. And yet we see it again in Rise of Palpatine, and we see it in the lore through Jedi Sentinels carrying them as well. As aside from her, the only other canon users were the Jedi Temple guards, basically the Sentinels, and that also included slicers and tech experts as well, if you want to break down all that. On Coruscant, who wielded double-ended lightsaber pikes with yellow blades, and they all did not have a double-ended lightsaber. They also had, and I'll share a picture right here, they also had a single blade as well with just the hilt. So there's a little bit of correction right there. If you look closely at the hilt of Luke's saber, it's seemingly identical to those used by the Jedi Temple guards, except for the coloring, so it's a possibility that Luke somehow recovers one of their weapons to use as his own. And so I'm going to expand a little bit more on this. When Palpatine takes over, he also takes over I'm referring to the lore, the original lore, and they haven't really expanded how he took over on the temple in Disney's lore. But when we see Revenge of the Sith, the temple is basically destroyed by fire and stuff, and then we see that Palpatine takes over the temple, basically not over it, but it gets shut down, it's closed. He cleans it out and takes all the information and stores it in his own warehouse, and he had a few warehouses in the lore. And so just having a lightsaber laying around in the temple does not make sense to the fact that Palpatine would have hoarded all that stuff. So I'm just going to leave that there. The reveal of Rey's yellow lightsaber and now Luke may imply a link, of course. And that's what I stated on my Twitter when I first seen this come out, is that they're only doing it because Rey has a yellow lightsaber. They need to justify her, just like they made Baby Yoda do a force healing because Rey was going to do one in Rise of Palpatine. It could be that the yellow kyber crystal in Luke's saber somehow falls into Rey's position, of course, And that's how she's able to build her saber using such an uncommon kyber crystal color. And so again, she cannot obtain her own stuff. It's everything's given to her. Everything. We don't see her grow. We don't see her with trials and tribulations, and we don't see her making her own stuff and getting her own things, and that's including the saber. So if they're insisting this is the hand-me-down once again, then she's just not a relatable character. I mean, I'm speechless with this, other than it's just frustrating, very frustrating. Star Wars is no stranger to such coincidences, like Rey stumbles across Luke's saber in the basement of Maz Kanata's castle, since the Force does work in mysterious ways. No, it doesn't. Not with her. The Force is very fucking obvious with her. They want the Force to favor her, and so there's no mystery in that. Of course, the Force is going to say, "Here you go," because you are now the chosen one. Anakin didn't even get that kind of treatment with the Force, and the Force fucking created him. All right, so I'm done. It's also worth remembering that several Luke's action figures from Kenner's Star Wars line, including retractable yellow lightsaber blade, the color choice could be a homage to those figures. Yeah, and I think this was before, the reveal of his green lightsaber, and so it is what it is, but it doesn't mean that he wielded a yellow lightsaber during that time frame. What it means are, so I mean, when you look at the original lore, he only used a blaster. The story of Luke's lost lightsaber took quite an unexpected turn in Star Wars #1 when we were shown what happened to the saber as it fell. Again, it fell all the way to the bottom of Bespin, to the ground. We see it in Empire Strikes Back when Luke falls out and catches himself on the Antani off of below Cloud City. So again, that is just another incident of not paying attention to your lore, Marvel Comics and Disney Lucasfilm Story Group. A hand reached out and unexpectedly caught it, raising all manner of questions about their identity and how they knew to be there at the time to catch it. And that's the thing. Now Force Ghosts can catch and fully interact physically with the living world. In the original lore, they could not. And it was done that way so that Luke can, grow in his arc and stuff. And even Obi-Wan says that he could not interfere. He could not get involved. And when we get into Heir of the Empire, and I'm going back to the original lore because I'm comparing and contrasting, Obi-Wan, tells Luke, I can't stay in this realm anymore. I have to travel back. It's my time. So it shows that, Force Ghosts can't stay in between worlds, I guess you can say, our spirit world, I guess, in a different lack of term, for a better lack of term, and the living world. So now the Force Ghosts can interact and all this. So where were they for him in all the other incidents when he needed him? Why were they just choosing there to be there for Rey? All right. That's not the only big Star Wars twist as of late. Marvel's Darth Vader series revealed that Padme may have survived the events of Revenge of the Sith. No. I didn't cover that one. If it apparently looked like a lookalike of hers, could have been one of her handlers, her bodyguards. However, the image shows that it was much younger and she should be like 50 by that time. So a lot mature in the body structure and everything. It could be a niece as well. I think they're trying to grasp to keep the audience involved in their Star Wars. And I think they're failing greatly at it. For more on the lightsaber of Star Wars, read a full premiere on what various lightsaber colors mean. So there's a link here. You can click there. And then we also have, different images here of different lightsabers here and so forth. So with this, when I first seen the article on Twitter by Marvel about this new comic coming out with Luke wielding a yellow lightsaber in between the movies, in between 5 and 6, I did comment on it, and and someone said, well, he wielded the lightsaber in the Marvel comics from the past in the original lore. So I looked it up because I'm not a big comic person, so I don't know the stories exactly. So I try to do my research as much as I can. And I found out that while it looked like Luke wielded a lightsaber, blue lightsaber in those comics, they were just flashbacks. So there were flashbacks to his fight with his father and all of that. And so he still used a blaster. So we're going to go ahead and listen to this clip here from Shadows of the Empire of Luke creating his synthetic crystal and talking about how he gathered the parts and all that. This is very interesting. And again, compare and contrast, and we'll go break that down a little bit more and conclude this video.
Luke stared at the little furnace, as if so doing could hurry the process. Inside, the ingredients for a lightsaber gem cooked at an incredible heat and pressure, intense enough to collapse Durasteel into a liquid ball. And yet from a meter away, except for the red operating diode, you couldn't tell the furnace was on. Well, except for a little smell of ozone. Luke looked around the place that had been Ben Kenobi's home. It was a small place on the edge of the Western Sea, made of crushed local rock mixed into a slurry and sprayed onto frames to harden. Ben's house looked as if it could have been a natural rock formation, smoothed and rounded by centuries of desert weather. Ben, struck down by Vader on the Death Star. For Luke, the memory was equal parts grief and rage. According to the book, which he was sure Ben had meant him to find, the best lightsabers used natural jewels, but there weren't a lot of the kind he needed lying around on Tatooine. He'd managed to collect most of the electronic or mechanical parts in Mos Eisley. Power cells, controls, a high-energy reflector cup, but he'd had to make his own focusing jewel. Now he was melting the pieces of the jewel into a solid whole. If everything went right, he'd be able to cut the jewel, polish and install it, tune the photoharmonics, and then he'd only have to hit the switch to have a working lightsaber. Suddenly, he felt something. It was like hearing and smelling and tasting and seeing somehow combined, and yet it was none of those things. Something impending. Whatever it was grew stronger. For a moment he had a flash of recognition. Was it Leia? He had been able to call her when he was about to fall from beneath Cloud City after his encounter with Vader. She had received his cry for help. He buckled on his blaster and went outside. Once he got the lightsaber built and working, Luke hoped he could put the blaster away. A true Jedi did not need any other weapon to protect himself, Ben had told him. A hot wind blew grit off the desert. In the distance, he saw a thin dust cloud. Somebody was approaching across the barren.
Okay, there you have it, the little clip from Empire, or Shadows of the Empire. And it shares that Luke Skywalker is in the home of Obi-Wan, and there he's taking refuge just to heal up and let his wrist bond to his artificial hand. And he's also discovered the journal that was left for him by Obi-Wan. Additionally, he is making his synthetic crystal so that he can construct his own lightsaber. And it tells about how he collected the parts and how he's nervous about putting it together because it can be disastrous if it's done wrong. And that's why only Force users can make lightsabers and wield them in the original lore. And so I hope you enjoyed that clip here, and I hope you enjoyed this video and this small compare and contrast and what I think about this whole situation. Again, I stated Disney will do what they want to do. However, we have learned, if you go ahead and look back at the lore, they contradict their material all the damn time. And it doesn't make sense for Luke to have another lightsaber before his green one, because that's his iconic lightsaber, and it's only has been known for him to wield those two lightsabers, not any other one. And again, the hints from IGN is that they're only doing this because now Rey's going to obtain that crystal and make her lightsaber. They have to find a way to get for her to have access to that crystal to be able to produce her own lightsaber that has that color of yellow. So thank you for tuning in. Like and subscribe to my channel. Share. It really helps out the channel immensely. And check out my merchandise. I do have mugs, travel mugs, or tumblers, and also shirts and other little things that you can use and purchase. I think I also have a laptop cover that you can purchase and put on your laptop. Any support is really appreciated by me. And you guys have a great day, and may the force be with you.